Is crypto winter over? It looks like it. Today, we're going to break it down with you guys. It's going to be a good one. I've got a trader with me today. It's going to be fun. I do want to thank our sponsor, and that is iTrust Capital, where you guys can get into your own crypto IRA. You can also do gold and silver over there. And the other thing that you can do with iTrust is you can transfer from other IRAs all into this, and it gives you a full dashboard of being able to manage all your trades in there. Very easy to set up. I always recommend that you diversify into IRAs, and crypto IRAs are the best way to do that. Use our link. It's going to give you a $100 funding reward just to get going and get started. I'm going to play a clip, and then I'll bring in Tim, and we'll go into some stuff today because we're going to break down a lot of coins for you, a lot of tokens in general. We'll get into Bitcoin, ETH, a handful of other Solana, Avalanche, Chainlink. We're going to break it down all for you. So let's start, though, with Mike Novagratz because he's talking about the market's going higher. Take a look.
I feel fantastic right now. I feel like I've got a testosterone booster.
Crypto feels like it wants to go higher. It just does. You see all the crypto names are rallying today. That's partly on more optimism around the Clarity Act passing. And it just feels like there's enough buying. It puts MicroStrategy goes up every day. If we take 84 out, we go to 100.
All right, 84 out, going to 100. I'm going to bring in, of course, Mr. Tim Warren, coming in from Tim Warren Trades. How are you, man?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Paul?
What do you think about Mike's statement there? We take 84 out, and we're on our way to 100. What do you think?
I think he's probably right, but that's one of those things. It's like, all right, then we take 100K out. We're talking about 120, 28, and then we got 128. It's like you can keep raising the bar. Let's start by just taking out the resistance right in front of us. Yeah, we had this nice run up to almost 83,000. But as I've said on your show before, I want to make sure I'm clear here. It's gone higher than I thought it would. But there's still this bear flag pattern in play that is just not going away. Volume is not coming in to confirm that bulls are fully in charge. And there's a couple things popped up in the charts that just make me wonder, can we even make it back up to 84 yet before another correction?
If you look at the chart right now, Tim, and you look at the performance that we had coming off of last week after the Bitcoin conference and through consensus this week, a lot of activity on Bitcoin in general. Where would you place it today right now?
Well, I'll say one thing. This is the first time I actually had a video about this. And you know what? Trends break. It happens. This is the first Bitcoin conference, Paul, that the days after the conference actually were bullish. Every other conference has been bearish. So hats off for a changing of pace. But here's the reality. You can see on my chart right now, you can see on the red line, if people are watching, there's a rising red line of resistance. There's a rising green line of support. This is called a rising channel. Even worse, when you pair this right after an explosive downward push, it's called a bear flag pattern. And people were freaking out because even on this chart, you're saying, Tim, look, we broke above the line right here a couple of days ago. That means the pattern's broken, right? That's not that simple. Take a look at the last bear flag pattern. We actually had a candle go up above this, couldn't close above it, but we broke up above resistance. And then what would happen over the next couple of weeks? We, of course, would crash down to new lows for the market. Now, I'm learning more and more as I do this. I don't want to say anything is 100%. I actually shifted my perspective, Paul, here recently, saying, you know what? I want to give the benefit of the doubt to the bulls and how they pushed. And yes, we're on what seems like the doorstep of the Clarity Act passing. When I was on your show 2 weeks ago, I would have told you the likelihood of the bottom being in probably around 15%. I would probably push it closer to 25 to 30% today.
Okay.
But that still leaves us with a hefty percentage saying that we should still go to new lows. We haven't taken out, we haven't created bullish divergence, which again, things could change, but we've never had a bear market end in Bitcoin without at least a daily bullish divergence. That hasn't happened yet. We're still sitting in a bear flag pattern. We did invalidate an Elliott wave theory breakdown that I talked about in your show before, but that doesn't mean just because Elliott wave broke down that we can't go lower. That's like saying, all right, if we had 8 legs of a chair, now we only have 7, right? There still are other signs out there that the markets aren't quite ready to go up. And I'll give you a leg that people just don't think about too often. And I don't want to pick on Mike Novagratz because it's more about the people, his sector and his sphere. These are very large and very wealthy individuals who do not care about minute price action. They care about long-term action. But a lot of times, whether they mean to or not, some of them do mean it, some of them might not. they don't represent the markets well. A lot of times when they start talking bullishly, that's a reason for people to sell off. When they talk bearishly, that's a reason for people to buy up. So even listening to Mike Novagratz's clip, and I respect Mike Novagratz for a macro perspective, him saying the sentence, well, if we just break 84,000, we'll get up over 100. Sure, but there's no guarantee right now on the charts that we're going to even make it back up to that 84,000.
Yeah. Well, and the 84 is holding, that would be a wild performance from where it's standing right now. Bitcoin trading at around 79 as we record. And that, to your point that you hit on right there, I've got a clip from Tom Lee, because I think this also comes into, and some of his predictions too that I'll show you guys. But let me go to this clip real quick and see what you think.
Crypto winter's over, and the spring is here, meaning the bull market's starting. Most people don't recognize when a bull market is starting. That's the case because Bitcoin has now risen for 3 consecutive months. Why does that matter? You're never in a bear market if Bitcoin closes up 3 consecutive months. So since the inception of Bitcoin, being up 2 months in a row could happen in a bear market. For instance, that happened in 2022. But you've never had 3 consecutive months. So to me, if Bitcoin closes up above 76,000 this month, the bear market is definitively over.
All right, so there you have it, above 76. Now, the key is that is May. And you got Tom Lee's prediction right here. And this is year end, this year, 2026. Bitcoin 150 to 200, ETH 9,000 to 12,000. All right, so let's jump to the ETH chart. First of all, I think these are very, very high outlandish predictions. To your point, maybe they're thinking, but he said the end of this year, prediction for end of year, for this year. So
we also have to remember the track record Tom Lee has where he's been telling us we're going to be, what was his prediction for end of 2025?
Yeah, exactly.
What was his prediction for Q1 of 2026?
Pretty extensively high.
Here's what I'll say about him, because I don't get all my calls right either. There's not a single one of us out there that get all of our calls right. The difference is it really stinks when I miss my calls because I'm a day trader, right? So we are trading micro movements. Tom Lee, I want to give him credit, but also say why I don't take him seriously. He's not incentivized to pinpoint and get these calls exactly right. As a day trader, I am. So when I miss it, it does suck. It hurts me. And I'm like, okay, how do I go back and change my analysis? And how do I get this right the next time, right? For him, and again, Mike Novagratz, Michael Saylor, all these guys, these are big long-term guys who they only they don't benefit at all from coming out and saying, hey guys, we probably have a couple more months to downside. That doesn't help them. They want nothing but to say it's going up. And if they're wrong, it doesn't hurt them long term. That's why they can get away with it. Even when you take a look at what he's saying here, if you go back to my screen, we'll take a look at Ethereum here in a second. But I want to look at the Bitcoin chart when he looks at this monthly perspective. Keep in mind, as we're recording this, this is May 8th, meaning we are a fourth of the way through the month, just barely over a fourth of the way through the month. I also want to kind of clarify something he said. We've never had a bear market have 3 positive months in a row. Well, guess what we also had never had? We never had Bitcoin price get above all-time high before the halving event. We've never had a bear market that only lasted this many months. Like there's so many things. I think we're close to the bottom of this whole bear market, but there are so many things that you could say logically, Tom, just because something's never happened before is not a guarantee it's not going to happen this time. On the Ethereum front, though, let's get over there and take a look at Ethereum. I'll take a look at the daily chart. Unlike Bitcoin, where Bitcoin had some breaks above resistance, is giving people this edge and this feeling of like maybe this is the end. Ethereum's actually been slightly downtrending since this recent high back on April 17th, right? So Ethereum not getting the same hype that Bitcoin's got. ONDO's gotten here recently. Even Chainlink started to make some moves. Ethereum kind of just boringly trending this direction. And this formation, while it's slightly different than Bitcoin's, it's actually a rising wedge, not a rising channel, effectively treated the exact same way as a bear flag pattern. We just call it a bear pennant. I'm not convinced we have to drop all the way down. I think the target would be somewhere around 1,200. But I think Ethereum still could come back down here towards $1,700 to $1,600 still. And just because we delayed the process, just because we're still hovering up here, you still have these macro selling positions happening. We actually, even here more recently, Bitcoin, Ethereum, a lot of coins, fresh daily sell signals on certain indicators, especially that I use here. So there was an element of positivity overall, but right now, Ethereum, Bitcoin, and the majority of the crypto market, not all, but the majority, there's still probably a good argument that we should at least go back down towards these lows, if not create new lows of this bear market.
Okay, there you go, guys. So still expecting a retracement. Now, Lee has also been on record, just so everybody's clear, because he did this, I think, on CNBC Squawk Box the other day, is that he is still looking, even though we're seeing the S&P hit 7,400 today, just a few minutes ago. He still thinks that we're going to see a pretty good retracement. So there is some element to this, because his whole thesis is that, we're going to see a downside, and then we're going to see, the mother of all bull runs. You look at the macro scenarios and then some of the regulatory fronts, you have to consider clarity. Clarity, of course, right here, Robinhood CEO Vlad talking about this. Clarity Act needs to just one more small push, crossing the finish line, calling it the foundation for the American dominance in digital finance. This helps them and many others. If you look at the odds right now, at least over on Polymarket, 69%, after it popped up over the last little bit. This is this week, guys. Yeah. So it was up as high as, I think, around 73. Yeah, 73%.
I think it was 76%.
76 at one time. Yeah. So there's still that issue of this entanglement that is happening between the banks and, of course, what's going on with crypto industry. That is a big factor. And you got Zach Pandel saying, hey, Domino 3 is in. And remember, his Domino 3 was the banking committee moves ahead with clarity markup, which is the plan right now, at least according to everybody we're hearing from in DC. The markup's going to happen next week. Now, does that mean it's done? No, it's not. Does not mean it's done, but it does mean that we start to get at least a step forward. I want to go to a clip real quick, because this is VanEck talking about this, and then I want to get your opinion on this. Take a look.
One reason why our on-chain economy ETF node is up 75% since inception, while Bitcoin is down 20%, is that we've focused on the companies that can actually earn a cash flow from the adoption of blockchain technology. The passage of the Clarity Act, I think, is a major question mark that could reignite some animal spirits in that space, but we're still pretty cautious on this altcoin market. I think the investor protections that are still yet to be worked out keep a lot of institutions on the sideline. If Clarity passes, that might be a time to even buy higher if the details will matter there.
A passage of the Clarity Act would be wonderful. It would speed things up, especially from in terms of an investor and flow perspective into, say, ETFs. But if it doesn't pass, it's not the end of the world.
All right, so not the end of the world. Do you think that is the case? Do you think without clarity, crypto still continues on its merry way, or do you think this is a critical crossroad?
No, I think I actually have never seen that clip, didn't know who those two gentlemen were before watching it. But I think actually there's a lot of accuracy said there. It would speed things up. It will speed things up when it happens. If it doesn't happen, which again, I think it will, but if it doesn't, I told my community, while I'm not a fan of the 4-year cycle because I think institutional adoption would break it, the way I see this happening is if we don't get a Clarity Act bill passed, what it does is it delays, and it probably brings the 4-year cycle timeline back to full fruition. What did that mean? It means we're probably not bottoming out and starting the next bull market until October. Why? Because we're waiting on retail to be the main driver of the market. Whereas if the Clarity Act passes and a green light gets turned on for institutions, all of a sudden we're not waiting for retail to come back and be ready to buy. Institutions are going to pick it up and change the whole market in general. So I think they put it well. I still think a bull market happens in 2027. The question is, does it start this summer, or do we have to wait till the fall for retail to get back involved?
Yeah, and I look at this, so everybody knows, that's basically Sal from Tucrium, and then, of course, VanEck, Matthew Siegel, who's been on our show before. Okay. Both are really focused on...
Never seen his face.
Yeah, both are institutional capital guys. So to your point, exactly. It does have some potential here in terms of driving what we could see in the market around institutional adoption, but really retail is going to be the critical one. I still am on the fence as to whether or not it's a go, no go kind of thing.
I'll tell you a couple of coins to be aware of that I think could be dramatically hurt, and they're coins I really like. If the Clarity Act doesn't pass, I think Bitcoin can still do well. I think Ethereum will still do well. I think Solana will still do well. I even think coins like XRP can do very well. But coins that seem to be extremely reliant upon the emergence of real-world assets, Think ONDO exploding right now. Think Chainlink. And you guys, people who know me know I love Chainlink. One of the big reasons I love Chainlink is because of the role it plays in real world assets. But if institutions can't go all in fully yet because there's no Clarity Act, coins like that could struggle. Now, to the flip side, I think the Clarity Act's going to pass. If it does pass, those coins could be the leaders of the next altcoin season.
Look at this, though, Tim. Coinbase suffered service disruptions. This was elevated temperatures, supposedly, in an AWS server and data center. Interesting stuff right now. It just seems like there's a lot of unique things happening with Coinbase. They had the layoffs. They've had this service disruption here. You know, we've seen narratives here that we think maybe there is an angle for an acquisition. I know this is kind of crazy, but what if JP Morgan were to jump in and say, let's just buy Coinbase up at the precipice of a Clarity Act going through, you know, the next bull run getting ready to take place. You had Coinbase missing a couple of earnings and the last one by a lot. So maybe they're a target right now. What would you say to that?
Well, I'd ask the question, what does BlackRock think about that? What does Fidelity think about it? What do these other large ETF holders who are using Coinbase as their custodian, what do they think about it? Let's pretend, first of all, I'm not convinced that Coinbase is actually in trouble as a company, but let's pretend they are, and there is going to be a buyout. I don't think it's so simple that says JP Morgan just swoops in and makes the deal. I think potentially you have BlackRock saying, I don't want JP Morgan to have control over that. Maybe I get involved and I make a bid to try to buy Coinbase. But I also think that Coinbase has gotten so many big friends here recently. You know, use the expression too big to fail. I don't know if there's really much anything that's too big to fail, but Coinbase is on that side of the spectrum. It's an interesting proposition, though. A buyout could happen. It's not on my radar, and I would hesitate to lean that way right this second. But I would also say, if it does go that direction, it probably won't be a simple one company suggestion, one company offering.
End up with some alliances also from traditional finance that might go that direction. I'm not saying that this is, I'm just always looking for narratives that could end up going one direction. I mean, listen, we have kind of isolated a lot of different narratives in terms of investments. If you look at the investments that have gone into Polymarket, the investments that have gone into Kalshi, what we'll most likely see as one of the booms of the prediction market, all have come from traditional finance. So there is an opportunity here. So just, you know,
but you think if Coinbase is in trouble, Paul, you think that they would have the ground? I mean, the Clarity Act almost single-handedly was delayed by Brian Armstrong here a couple of months ago. That doesn't seem like a move he could have made if his company is in trouble as well. I don't know. There's just a whole lot that still needs to play out before I'd feel worried for Coinbase's sake.
Hey, listen, I looked at your video. You did the Chainlink versus Avalanche video. This is a great breakdown. If you guys are not following Tim's channel, let me kind of zoom out here a little bit. I want you to go over to Tim's channel because he does a great job. But when you look at the comparison here on Chainlink, you had adoption, dominance, narrative, and asymmetric risk as the power plays.
Yes.
Avalanche you had as tech and ecosystem.
Yes.
Would you not consider the asymmetric risk based on Avalanche's model of, you know, multiple chains? Why would you not give it that? I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah, so asymmetric risk, what we really were weighing there is that whole risk to reward ratio, right? So this is a whole Elite 8 series, a part of other things we did. And so I didn't just write these by myself. We had a team work on this, discuss it, go back and forth. There were disagreements about who we thought would win, but we came to this conclusion. You know, some of the matchups we had, it was, well, this coin probably has a higher ceiling, but it's way riskier. So for that reason, we're going to give the win to the safer coin. Others, it's like, okay, the risk is not that big of a deal. So now it is who has a better upside potential in terms of ROI. So we look at asymmetric risk. It really did have to do with price action. And when the dust settles, maybe AVAX does end up having a better bull market than Chainlink. I don't think so, though. I think Chainlink is a sleeping giant from potential market cap perspective. And this one really did come down. By the way, I like both AVAX and Link. I think both are going to do very well. I hold both of them, but especially weighing the risk side. I think that if you were to sit here and tell me right now, hey, Tim, one of these two tokens just had a big problem from their competitors, from a technological standpoint, and it's not going well. I would be much more likely to say I think that was AVAX having that problem than Chainlink. Doesn't mean I think AVAX will have that problem. It just means I think that Link is a safer investment at the moment than AVAX. If I had pitted AVAX against a different coin, let's say like an ONDO per chance, like ONDO would have a way higher ceiling, but I would look at the risk factor and say, you know what? I think that the risk factor leans towards AVAX instead.
Well, and one advantage with Chainlink is just the involvement now with KelpDAO because of them exiting, layer 0. That's a win for Chainlink, which could, back to your point, could be, I guess you could kind of put that in maybe the dominance category because that would help them in terms of what we'll see around those kind of narratives coming out. So big deal there. What about, okay, so if you look at Chainlink right now on the chart and Avalanche on the chart, where would you put Chainlink at the end of the year? Do you have kind of a picture out there of what Chainlink might look like?
Yeah, I haven't done a whole lot of year-end predictions yet because again, when we just had this conversation, will the Clarity Act bill pass? Will it not pass? Will the bull market start in the summer? Will it start in October? With that said, if we can start in the summer, I think there's a chance, I'm not going to say new all-time high. I think there's a chance Link can break this cycle, the previous cycle's all-time high of $30 or $31 or so. So I think my estimate for Link, if we get a summer bull market with the Clarity Act, I think $30 to $50 is a realistic range. I think you take a look at a coin like AVAX. Now, AVAX is dealing with highs from way back in 24, not necessarily in 25. And I think, but you're looking at similar range here. I think if we can get a summer bull market, AVAX is way down here, obviously. I think you could start to push back up towards 65, and I think there's a case we go higher. I don't see AVAX or Link being above their highs of 21 yet when we go into 27. I think best case scenario, we're back towards Link a little above, AVAX somewhere right around previous cycle highs. Now, you back this up and you tell me, Tim, we don't get the Clarity Act bill passing. The bull market doesn't start until the fall. Well, in that case, hey, I think it'd be amazing if Link is back up over $15 to $20 by the end of the year. For AVAX, I think it'd be very lucky to be back up above 15, somewhere to $15 to $20 by end of year. But that's, of course, thinking we're not starting a bull market till October. So we really only have like 2.5 months of price action to the upside. Unless something changes, by the way, we have not seen bull markets start off with a bang. Bull markets usually are a little slower, more gradual. So if anyone's wondering, Tim, if the bull market starts, can't we just explode? We've never seen a bull market explode like that before. It usually starts like slow but sturdy and then picks up later.
If you look, okay, so let's jump over to Solana real quick. I'll just look at liquidations right now, 17 mil worth of shorts. Just in the last 24, Solana hitting 90, breaking out quickly. If you look at just right now I'm on the daily right there. What about this in terms of Solana? Where do you like this later this summer?
Yeah, I mean, again, so you're going with the conversation of, do we have a bullish summer?
Yeah,
or do we
back
have
to the bullish summer.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, again, these are eyeball picks based off of momentum that can happen. Give me a summer all-time high. Sorry, I apologize. Give me a summer bull market. I think we could be back rivaling with former all-time highs. Right? We never got to 300. Hello. We were close. I think Solana could explode back because you got to think about
Tim. I got to reel you back in there, man. Come on, you're going to tell me that we're going to see Solana at $300 if we see a bull market this summer.
If the bull market starts in the summer, Clarity Act bill passing, what is Solana benefiting a whole lot from right now? It's benefiting from its big role in the stablecoin play. I think that as momentum starts to pick back up, Solana, by the way, in this Elite 8 series is running through its competition because the technology and the adoption, it is hard. We didn't put Ethereum into this category with 8 because it would have been too dominant. So if you exclude Bitcoin and Ethereum, there's just not a lot that can get in the way of Solana's technology and adoption. Even Ethereum, it's a good conversation to look at what they're doing together. Yeah. Solana, here's the other thing I would say right now. Solana comparatively is one of the more oversold tokens, almost like it's purposely being kept down for something special down there.
That I agree with. Hey, let's talk about ONDO for a second. I'm going to play a clip for you because this is kind of an interesting angle on ONDO that I don't think a lot of people realize. Let's take a look.
Right? Take hyperliquid, perpetual swaps, very much offshore. I don't see a world in which everything that happens offshore finds a home in the US the way that it's happening offshore. That's just not going to happen, right? There's always going to be more permissionless innovation happening offshore. I don't see, banks get fully comfortable with permissionless stablecoins anytime soon. They're going to do tokenized deposits. The DTCC, NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange, name your TradFi, do tokenization and tokenized securities, but probably in a permission environment. They're not going to be issuing the wrappers that work in DeFi in the way that ONDO's doing.
All right, so that's Ian from ONDO, their CEO. And to the point he's making there is that they've got the partnership there with the DTCC.
Yeah.
But at the same time, permissionless is probably going to be a continued growth, even though he did segue that into the sense that he didn't think there'd be a mass adoption here in the US, that it's mostly going to happen offshore. But still, this is a global market. We see this in DeFi all the time. If you chart ONDO right now, which has been flying here recently for these reasons, just if you look at the narrative and you look at the fundamentals, where would you put ONDO if, let's go again, bullish side of clarity goes through, now we get kind of an unleash of what the DTCC is going to be doing along with a lot of other TradFi. What do you think?
Yeah, so let's just start off with kind of what I was talking about before, because I mentioned ONDO when I was working with other tokens. Let's make sure we understand. ONDO hit its high back in December of 24 up here at 212, 213 area. It dropped 90%, right? I know it feels like everything dropped like close to 100%. This was one of the worst blue chip altcoins out there. Top 100 coins out there dropping. I'm not saying it is the worst. It's just one of the worst. It here is now up in the last 10 days. So I'm going back to this breakout back here when we hit support. We're now up. So we're at 44 cents now. So this has gone up since I made a video about it earlier today. We're now up. Holy cow. 75%. When I made a video earlier today, Paul, it was 66%.
It's on a run. Yeah, it's
now
at 44 cents right now. Yeah.
In that video, by the way, I talk about, I expected when we made a breakout above this, we prepared our community, lose this support level, we're coming down here to 19 cents. Break and get above this resistance level. I had levels starting between 32 to 36 cents. So we actually made some money on this ONDO move, but I took profits way too soon. Little did I know ONDO was ready to make massive movements. This morning, when I made a video at 41 cents, I said, watch for moves between 46 to 50 cents as the next mark. After that, and I'll pull up some other resistance level. Did not mean liquidations there. Let's look at some other order blocks and resistance levels here. After that, we have levels. There's a little pocket. That's actually a decent pocket there at 60 cents. That's really not much of anything. There's another big one up here at 90, 88, 90 cents.
Right.
By the way, ONDO also quietly doing something a lot of Bitcoin holders hope that Bitcoin can do here soon. And that was, we just smashed through the 200-day SMA, right? So pretty loud statement here from ONDO. Now, this is where it's going to get kind of crazy. When you talk about year-end price prediction, first of all, let's just make sure that ONDO sustains movements. Like this movement in the last 10 days is not sustainable. There's going to be a correction. There's going to at least be a higher low put in. But I do think, when I told people earlier that I think Bitcoin, for example, still is not out of the woods yet on staying in a lower low, neither is Ethereum, neither is Solana, neither is XRP. I think ONDO is making a case to potentially say, hey, guys, that move down towards 20 cents back in February, that might have been the bottom. We might make a move back down towards 30 cents and put in a higher low. But it seems like the life is finally coming back to ONDO. And because it dropped so far so fast, the potential for a massive move up is also there. So while this is going to sound very crazy, and I'm not locking it in, if the Clarity Act bill passes this summer, if we get this unlocking of real-world asset tokenization from institutions, I'm not promising, I'm not guaranteeing. I'm saying do not be surprised if ONDO is at new all-time highs by the end of the year.
All right.
On a way to a much higher explosion in 27 and 28.
Yeah, Tim Warren says all-time high. So there you go.
He promises.
Okay. No. That's going to be clipped. You know that. Tim Warren says all-time high for ONDO. You guys, ONDO, you know what to do. Okay, so thinking about that, speaking of all-time high, let's talk about Kalshi. They hit a $22 billion valuation after a $1 billion raise.
Wow.
This is insane. I'm sorry, like 22 billion. For Kalshi. But if you look at 22 billion, let's just go back, remind everybody, 22 billion right there. And let's go over to pre-market or pre-stocks right here and just take a look at where Polymarket is. And when you look at Polymarket, this thing is setting in at a low level right now compared to what the potential could be for Polymarket. Again, this is available on X stocks. This is something you can jump over on Jupiter and get into this. But and I'm not saying, first of all, not financial advice. These are always high risk, and you will lose everything, just for everybody. But these are the kind of things that could be on the move. Well, this is the Jupiter platform. If you guys want to jump over and learn a little bit about it, you can go to jupe.ag. Not a sponsor, but this is example of Polymarket right here. Only 654 holders, so just be aware. Market cap right now, 13 billion. So maybe it does go up a little bit more. Do we see it at its all-time high around 190 versus where it's at right now, 180, versus its market price or mark price right around 160. So I don't know. This is something that we're watching. We do participate in these just because we like to test these ecosystems, test these products and these tools. And it's kind of fun because you really get experience to what tokenized securities are going to look like very soon. And we're going to see all of it available. So it's just a matter of time, for sure. Hey, Tim, we know everybody can jump over to Tim Warren Trades. You guys can, of course, find Tim's channel right there. Let me zoom out of that. Boom, right there. Tim Warren Trades over on YouTube. Check him out over there, dropping news and insights every day. So thanks for coming in today. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Paul.
If you like this video, hit like and subscribe, drop a comment down below, and also join our free private member group. The link is in the description.